Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be flipping this mid-century modern tallboy dresser that I actually got from my grandma after she passed away. And it's a really cool story because her and my grandpa got it as their wedding gift from their mom, who had held on to it for quite a few years before that. So technically it was my great-grandma's first, and then it became my grandma's, and then now mine. When my grandma had it in her possession, she actually refinished it herself. She completely sanded it down and restained it, resealed it, and did an actual refinishing job. She wasn't a refinisher in any way, shape, or form, but she definitely had that mentality of, I can do anything. So she had her go at trying to refinish this dresser, and she did a pretty good job for the most part. I do a lot more painting than I do refinishing. She probably did a better job than I could ever, but there still are a few imperfections in her finish. It's just a little bit splotchy, and I don't know if that was at fault of her or just the type of wood. Overall, it is a great dresser though. But if you guys know me at all, I really don't like the orangey brownish type of finish on these older mid-century modern dressers. So we are going to be giving it a makeover today, and I think my grandma would love for me to be able to make it my own rather than selling it to someone else. So that's what we're gonna do today. Before we get too far into this video, if you guys could please like and subscribe down below if you haven't already. You could also share this video, comment something that you like about this video, really anything to interact, and that will really help a small channel like mine grow more. I do want to take a second or two to talk about this dresser specifically though, what needs work, and what I do really enjoy about this mid-century modern piece. So as I mentioned, the current finish that my grandma had done is a little bit splotchy. I think that was just the lack of sanding it all the way down in every spot. The stain just looks a little bit different in some spots, or it could simply just be the wood that was underneath. I'm not super knowledgeable in the staining world, but I do know that the finish is solid. It's not failing. She did a great job protecting it. The next thing is that there are a ton of hardware holes on this piece. I know this isn't the original hardware to this piece. That must have been lost over the years, but we need to fill some hardware holes because we definitely don't need this many. Another thing that I've been playing around with is trying to figure out what design I want to do for this piece because of these weird lines in the dresser drawers. I feel like it just makes it kind of hard to plan a design around it. Not to mention, I feel like this dresser is very bulky and just kind of weird shape. So I had to think up something really unique, which I did, and you guys will see later on in the video. Like most dressers, this could just use a good wipe down and clean. It's very dusty. My grandma did take care of it quite well while it was in her possession, but I've had it in my garage for a little bit while I've been flipping a bunch of other pieces. So obviously when it's in a garage, dust can definitely collect. I'm definitely going to be replacing the hardware throughout this makeover. These cute little bows would be perfect for a dresser in a little girl's room, but because I plan to incorporate it in my room or somewhere in my space, I'm not really feeling the bow hardware, but I do really love that it is solid wood and it's quality built. I love that it's been passed down through the family, and I want to keep it that way. I imagine eventually when I have kids, I will be giving it off to them, and maybe they will give it a makeover to their liking. That's the beauty of furniture flipping, is just because it's been flipped once doesn't mean that it can't be flipped over and over and over again. So now that we know a little bit more about this piece, let's go ahead and start by taking off the hardware. It's going to be really easy because a lot of it's already missing. Why my grandma picked this hardware. I was kind of confused because I wouldn't really expect her to have hardware in the shapes of bows. That wasn't really her personality. but if I'm thinking how my grandma would think, she probably had a hard time trying to find hardware that would fit with how these hardware holes are. Usually there's just like one in the middle for more knob pieces like these, and there probably aren't that many options for hardware that looks like this. That's probably why I thought that this was just one hole in the middle, and it's not. So we're gonna have to fill in even more hardware holes and hope that a piece of hardware fits right in the middle there. If not, I might have to change my plans a little bit. Hello. Hello, Mustang. Okay, so now with the design that I plan on doing, especially on the drawer fronts, we're gonna need some wood filler and some Drydex spackling. Now I have two products here. Typically I would use this Drydex spackling all the way, but I am gonna be doing a little bit of a paint wash, and for that reason, on the top two drawers, I'm gonna be using this Minwax color matched wood filler instead of the Drydex. But because I do prefer the Drydex, I'm gonna use this on the bottom three drawers. I wanna get the hardware holes filled early in the beginning here because it can take a while for this stuff to dry. Not to mention, sometimes you do need 2 coats of this stuff, so I really just want to get it done now and not have to worry about it later. I wanted to take a second to say thank you to all of you who watched my latest video. There was so much love and support to the point that I've actually never seen before on this channel. There are a lot of new viewers from that video, so if you are one of them, welcome to my channel and thank you for clicking on that subscribe button as well as all the likes and positive comments. It really does mean the world to me and it helps this channel out so much when it comes to growth. I have so many more amazing videos coming out soon, so if you aren't yet subscribed, make sure to do that so you don't miss out on what's coming up next. And if you are, again, thank you so much for all of the support on that last video. It seriously blew my mind. I have to wait on the drawers because all of the wood filler is drying now, but there aren't any imperfections or repairs needed on the body of the dresser. It was actually kept in very good condition, so I can pull this out and start giving it a scuff sand.
I'm not really asking, we'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out.
This paint that I'm going to be using is called Oatbran from Valspar Signature paint. This is one of my favorite paints and I use it very often. I've been testing this paint out for quite a while and it really does act as an all-in-one paint. Therefore, I'm not going to be priming this piece, or at least not the body, which I will be getting into a little bit later. Okay, so at this point, the first coat of paint is on the dresser, and typically I would move into sanding down the drawer fronts, but because the wood filler and spackling is not yet dry on the drawer fronts, we can't quite do that. But one thing that we can do is work on a different part of the design, specifically for the bottom 3 drawer faces, and that is going to be cutting up this pine half round. I've seen a lot of people use similar things to this. I'm not sure if people really use half rounds specifically, but that's going to be what I'm using. In all the inspiration photos that I've seen people cutting them, gluing them, and lining them up one after another throughout the entire drawer face. But me specifically, I want to space them out evenly and do a pattern that way. Math and measurements have never been my strong suit, so this is going to be super interesting. The first thing that I need to do is measure those bottom 3 drawers, make sure they're all the same dimensions. I'm pretty sure they are, and then start measuring the height of each so that we can figure out what we need to cut these to. The height of the drawer front is 7 3/16. So now I'm just going to repeatedly measure that on these half rounds so that we can get a good cut. After I got all the pieces cut, the wood filler was finally ready to be sanded down, so I sanded the excess down, and I also gave the drawers a good scuff sand as well. You can see I'm not wearing my respirator and I'm not wearing my gloves either. That was a really poor decision of me. Don't do that. Wear your protective equipment. I always recommend doing that, and I really shouldn't have been doing this without it. I've got all my little dowels or half round cut. I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna lay out this pattern, but what I do know is that I want one on both of the edges, and I also want these lines covered up. So I think I'm gonna start with that. I tried measuring this out to make it like look even while still covering up the things that I want covered up, and my brain is just not working and computing. I'm just gonna take this kind of one piece at a time and try to get the pattern that I want and get them as evenly spaced as possible. And then from there, I think I'm just gonna copy whatever pattern I get on this piece for the other 2 drawers. Now I'm using this Gorilla wood glue to get this half round attached and glued on. This stuff is pretty strong. I've used it in other projects before, so I have a lot of faith in it. So I'm just gonna put this on and we'll see how this goes. Because at this point I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted my pattern to end up, I wanted to play around with it a little bit before I got it glued on just to see what this would look like, and I think I had finally secured my pattern after looking at this, and I'm really happy I went with this pattern because in the end it looks really good. Ta-da! Got the first drawer done. These are pretty even spaced out. I'm sure if I took a tape measure, it maybe wouldn't look that way, but to my eye, it looks good, and I'm gonna go with that. At first, I was just gonna let the glue set, but I decided later on that I should probably clamp these down, and these mini little clamps really came in handy. If you don't have any, I highly recommend them. I'll leave a link to them in my description box down below, as well as with every other product that I use in this video. After all the clamps had been put on, I would wait about 45 minutes before I would take them off and move on to the next drawer just to make sure they were on tight. Because I didn't take any measurements as to where I wanted each one of the wood pieces, I kind of just lined up the drawers right next to each other to see where I wanted them and try to follow the previous drawer and get them as even as I could that way. I know there's a better method to this than that, but don't judge me too quick because it turned out really good. I'm now working on the top 2 drawers, and my plan for these are to be sanding them down to raw wood. So I have a really strong grit, I think it was 60 grit on here, to really knock back that finish and get these pieces back to raw wood. After I had gotten it bare, I did go back with about 100 and then 150 just to smooth out the surface so that it wasn't super rough. I found that my square palm sander was actually easier on these drawer fronts than my circular sander, so I opted to use that one, and then I just made sure to wipe all the dust back after I had gotten the first one done, and I did the same for the second one as well. Because it was only these 2 top drawers, this process really only took about 20 minutes, which I'm so happy about because it didn't kill my back. I did want to take a break from bending down though, so I went ahead and started my second coat on the body of the dresser. It did end up taking about 4 coats to reach full coverage, which is expected because I was going from a dark brown to a bright creamy whitish color. And after that, the body of the dresser was done and I just had to focus on the drawer fronts. Okay, so it's the next day, and the very first thing that I want to do is get the paint wash on these two top drawer fronts. One paint wash that I've been really obsessed with is with this Fusion Mineral paint in the color Algonquin. I just love the natural look that it gives, so we're gonna go ahead and use this paint. If you've never done a paint wash before, all you'll need is a little bit of water and the paint that you're gonna be using. Now, some people measure it, I just kind of eyeball it. I know that I'm not going to need that much because I'm only doing 2 drawers, so it's like 3 big plops in there, and then I'm just using this to stir it up. So it's still dripping like water. I want it to be a little bit thicker than that, so I'm going to keep adding paint until I get the consistency that I like. So as you can see, this is a little bit thicker, and I'm gonna go ahead with this consistency. Now to put it on, I'm just gonna use these shop towels. I really like these because it doesn't leave anything behind. Anytime that you're doing a paint wash, you wanna look for something that is lint-free to apply it so that nothing ends up in it. I do have 2 here. One is going to be to wipe it on, and the other's gonna be to wipe the excess back. Okay, we got 1 drawer down and 1 more to go. Next, I want to prime these 3 bottom drawers, and I know I didn't prime the body at all, but because there is like raw wood pieces on these drawer fronts, I want to take that extra precaution there. I'm going to be using my Zinsser 123 primer. It's a great adhesion primer, and it will help if there's any slight bleed through. If anything major happens, I might have to switch to a different primer, but I really highly doubt that. I think I definitely surprised myself on this project. Going into it, I wasn't sure how the end of this project was going to turn out. It honestly could have been an epic fail. That's kind of what I was thinking going into it, but I really do love how it turned out. I don't think it's too much, I don't think it's too little, and I think because of the shape of this dresser, it was actually the perfect fit and the perfect design in the end. This day was a little bit hotter, so everything was drying a lot faster, which means after I was done with the primer, I only had to wait about a half hour before I could start painting on the actual paint. And because I had the primer, it only took 3 coats instead of 4 coats like the body did. And since I was only painting these 3 bottom drawers, I was able to get that done pretty quick. Other than drilling in the holes, the bottom drawers were done, so I wanted to address sealing the top 2 drawers, and to do this I'm using my Minwax polyacrylic. The only sheen that I had was flat. I probably would have preferred to do more of a satin on this one, but flat worked just fine. I ended up doing 3 whole coats of this so that it was really protected. If you've watched any of my other videos, you would know that I have this really cool method where I use a grout sponge and I just cut it into a little piece and then use that to apply the top coat. I was not the person who came up with this idea, someone else did, I'm not quite sure who. Putting on this top coat was one of the last things that I had to do for this makeover to be complete. One other thing that I did have to do is drill in the hardware holes as well as spray paint the new hardware gold. And one thing that I do want to say about the hardware is the very top drawer, you'll see this in the final reveal, the hardware is different, and that is only temporary, and I'm sorry that I couldn't change it before I showed the final reveal, but the hardware store was all out of the hardware. I wiped them out and they have not restocked since, so it is only temporary, and I know it doesn't make it look amazing right now, but it will be changed out eventually. And last time, I wanted to encourage you guys to like this video, comment your favorite part down below, share it to a friend, and subscribe if you aren't already subscribed yet. We are trying to reach a goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and every view, every like, every interaction helps. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the final reveal.
Try to make it new. You can't fight it when it feels so true. You drive me crazy like no